Alright, sup fellow space fans, welcome back to the Path of Rage and our Star Citizen weekly briefing. It's been a busy week for CIG, starting with the very day I did this episode last week. They dropped a patch on that day. It has been a week of focus towards engineering, of course, but there are a few additions and changes that have been added in with these current patches that I'm going to go over. They also dropped a massive design brief on what they want engineering to be and how it's going to affect the game and how ships will be affected. And I'm not kidding when I say it's absolutely huge. I am not going to go over it in this video. I will link it down in the description below for you guys to check out, and I highly suggest you do. But if I went over it all, this video would be far too long. Following on that, though, we also had a new Inside Star Citizen finally, and they were talking with Torsten about, ding ding, you guessed it, engineering as well, and kind of going over some of these changes and thoughts and the fact that they have more in line and they're just holding it back. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. So first off, last Wednesday on December 3rd, CIG dropped their engineering design doc for everyone to check out, going over, as I said, what they have in store for us and what their ideas are for the game regarding engineering and how everything's going to change, how solo ships will work, how multi-crew ships will work. Everything that they plan for engineering is in this. Going in depth from the ship components and an overview of all of them in its entirety, the power distribution and management system, how fuses work, and the changes that have come to those in these recent patches, armor, everything like that. It is a very interesting read, and I highly recommend it for those who are really interested in seeing what they're going for. Imagine something along the lines of what you've always envisioned with Star Trek or Star Wars, where the ships are taking damage and people are running around trying to repair it, and the captain's asking, "Hey Scotty, what's going on?" This is kind of what they're going for. Again, I highly suggest you guys read this for yourselves. Now, as for the patches themselves, I'm not going to go over the engineering changes because there are so many of them. They're fixing the bugs and introducing and making new changes to the armor values and weapon values and stuff like that. But there have been a few new additions, such as a rebalance pass on snub fighters and interceptor. And the idea behind these was a focus on strengthening their unique roles, such as a combat role or a racing role. The ships involved are the Mirai Fury, the Origin 85X, the Kruger vehicles, the P-52 Kruger, the P-72, the Mirai Razor, the Origin M50, Aegis Avenger, and Origin 300i series. All of these now have been touched by these changes, and they have performance changes. They've been given new tuning and handling revisions that were introduced in earlier patches. The snub ships are now generally less durable, and they've got tuning passes to enhance their flight performance while reducing combat effectiveness, because there was a period in time, and it's still kind of that way, that somebody good enough in a snub fighter could absolutely wreck things it shouldn't be able to do. This is to tone them back and bring them in line with where they should be. Racing ships in general got additional changes on top of these tuning changes, where now they generate higher emissions. They have a longer spool up time for multi-modes, which is plus 5 seconds. That's huge depending what's going on. But they also get a longer boost capacity, like 25% longer boost ability than other standard ships, again to focus on that racing aspect of it. They also take 10% more damage to show their more fragile state. They're not combat ships. There were also some FPS weapon balancing and updates that came into the very first patch last week. One included fixing that stupid bug where you would drop your weapon when using a med pen. That got me killed more than a few times. They fixed the ADS jumping pose with pistols and SMGs. New optics were added to the FPS weapons, including the Volt weapons, and the shotguns were reduced boost from their fire rate from 450 to 385. They added 3 new compensators and 2 new suppressors, and they reworked the Custodian SMG to bring it more in line to where it should be with the other guns. The next patch, the very next day, saw the addition of over 10 new ships to the engineering system that hadn't been there before, and the next couple of patches after that, including today's as of the recording of this video, have been further adjustments and improvements to engineering. Again, it has been the huge and majority focus of this patch, and rightly so, because it is planned to come out for the end of the year, and they really need to get some of these bugs fixed. The counterintuitiveness of how it works, the adjustments to the fuses are very welcome. Again, they have a lot of work to do, I think, before this is ready for live, but we might see it sooner than later. I'm glad to see, though, that they are really bearing down and taking care of the bugs as they come up. And that brings us to the Inside Star Citizen, talking with Torsten, where Jared asks Torsten, the lead systems designer for engineering, a bunch of questions about where engineering is going. This is their 8th episode on it, the 8th time they've talked about it over the years, where it's going, what their vision is for it, what they're learning and finding out from this current patch cycle as people have gotten their hands on it, all that kind of stuff. There's a few things in here, though, that I want you guys to hear them say for yourselves. So first up, get this.
So right off the bat, it's been a year since we did that last ISC on engineering. What's the same? What's changed?
We didn't change a lot. What did change is the main direction of the feature itself.
Just the main direction.
Just the main direction. Technically, everything that you had in the Arena Commander, everything that we talked about still stands true. So everything that we discussed, all the intentions we had, still stands true. We had before, like, the direction of things have to happen. You have to be on your toes. You have to be very reactive to everything that is happening. We noticed that this is not particularly fun. So
just giving people something to do is not enough.
Giving people something to do can be really fun, but it pulls too much attention to these rather than of the gameplay that you should experience. So the direction that we got was, and we are now acting on, is that engineering gameplay is there to extend the lifetime of the ships rather than making your life miserable on a ship.
Now that is a very big change. I was not a fan of the version of engineering that we had in Arena Commander. I gave it a try a couple of times, obviously when it was available, and it never sat right with me. I didn't find it at all fun. It was tedious, exactly as Torsten said. And now that they're changing it over, I like this idea that it's going to be extending the life of the ship. You're less likely to blow up in space. You'll actually have people be able to do repairs, maybe get you back on your feet. This will be of no help, by the way, to single-seater solo pilots. Like, even if your ship is disabled and you can use the MFD ability to do the basic repairs to get you up and moving, your opponent is never going to not finish you off in PvP. The NPCs might, but in PvP, I'll finish you off every time. You'll finish me off every time. I don't see how it's going to extend the life of solo ships. But bigger ships, yeah, absolutely. I can get that, especially if you have to do what they're talking about next. And this is a big one that I have concerns about.
The first thing is preemptive or preventative stuff, the stuff that happens before things happen. Tell me how you use engineering to prepare your ship.
One of the main things right now that you have to do, or you should do, is prepare for travels. So you should buy fuses ahead of time so that you can replace them once they break on the ship. You should buy enough filled RMC canisters so that you are able to repair the components on site. Bigger ships that allow components to be swapped out in fight or in your travels, you can also prepare by buying components and then storing them on the ship so that you can replace them.
Now, in principle, I don't have a problem with the idea of preparing for your travels. You already have to do that if you're going to engage in FPS, for example. You have to make sure you have not only a weapon, but your ammo, your med pens, your med gun if need be, extra ammo, all of that kind of stuff. You need to have that on you, your repair tool, your multi-tool, before you go out and do anything FPS-wise. But this is something a bit more, because here they're talking about taking components, extra components with you that cost a lot of credits and bring them on your ship, so that hopefully if they get damaged or completely destroyed, you'll be able to replace them with the new ones. This will entirely depend on how insured ships and claims will work in the future, and if they can make them proper. If your ship gets destroyed and you have all that gear for replacement on that ship, and you respawn and you claim your ship and you don't get all of that stuff back, that is a massive cost. Some of these components cost tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is why I have a concern about this. It really, really depends on how they handle claims and what is on your ship. And one last thing that I wanted to highlight for you guys to hear in their own words is the changes that have come to the relays, because it is a fairly large game changer, and I think it's an excellent quality of life update.
It's not just managing the components, it's managing the relays. How do the relays work?
They changed a little. So if you recall, in the early tech preview and even the early arena commander mode, relays were like the weak point of any ship. We thought back in the day that this is a really, really good idea, and to a degree it would be. But with ships where some relays are placed in a very accessible position for getting shot at some point there will be the expert players that will just target those, and you will be rendered useless within a blink of an eye, which disagrees with the statement of we have to bump up the TTK here. So relays and fuses are still relevant. But if a relay does not hold any fuses anymore, basically the ship cannot support the full amount of power that the power plant would allow you to have. It makes sense to repair or restock the fuses.
But it's not going to stop your cold. It's not going to prevent doors from opening anymore.
I like this change a lot. It means that even if you do get boarded or your fuses get destroyed enough, your ship will still be able to, while drastically diminished, will still be able to function and give you time to hopefully get away or repair and continue on from there. But having your fuses gone will not make your ship completely useless and unable to function in any way. Again, it's a nice quality of life update that eliminates a rather glaring weakness in every ship just by being able to take out a few fuses to completely disable it. I'll put the link to this episode in the description below for you guys to check out, because there was more they talked about, and it is interesting and informative about engineering, so I suggest you do it. But for now, that is going to do it for our weekly briefing. 4.5 is now open to all waves of backers for everyone to check out. So those of you hearing this who are backers, please do jump in and sound off in the comments below what your experiences is, what you think of it, if you like it or if you don't like it. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, if you found this video informative and enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If not, a thumbs down as always. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more. And until next time, I've been Rage at Games, and I'll see you in the verse. Bye-bye.